Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's Devin Thomas, and this is another episode of Unscripted. Welcome back. This past week's been good. It's been really busy. I've been doing a lot of writing. Just a ton of writing. I kind of talked about it last week, but maybe even the week before, but kind of came to the conclusion I had to pivot on my previous film endeavor. Let's just call it that. Feel It All Around, which, I'm not going to keep talking about at this point, but it was like pretty close to just getting into production, and we just kind of like, it was like a mutual decision with everyone. I don't think this is the right movie to make right now. I wrote it a while ago, and then a couple months went by, you get to that 6 months goes by, and it's like, things have changed, and admittedly, it just wasn't the right movie to make right now. So that being said, it got me back into, out of pre-production mode and then into writing mode. And now that I'm in writing mode, it's been crazy. I've just pumped out like 3 scripts in the past 2 weeks, and each one's very good, very quality. You continue to draft them, but besides the point, it's just been like I feel like a conduit right now of just pure writer energy, which has been really good, and it's been really cool, and I've gotten a lot done. So making the most of your time, I think it's really, really important. And it was funny. I was reading one of the scripts, I was reading a new script I wrote, but one of the previous scripts, I just went to go check the date because I always save the draft dates on my scripts. And I saw that it said like first draft of this script. The first one I'd written out of this little batch of scripts said like 4/7/2025. And I'm like, I can't believe today's the 28th. I'm like, I can't believe I wrote this just so shortly ago, and these are like 90-page full feature films. They're not, I've written a few shorts in between this, believe it or not. But these are like serious long feature films, and that's just kind of how my mind thinks. I think in features. I remember at film school they wanted you to make a thesis, and even then I was like, fuck, like maybe a music video if you guys want something short. I just didn't really think I don't dislike short films. I don't not believe in them, but for me personally, I always thought like I just want to make a feature. I like movies. I don't like watching short films. I'm not saying I don't even like watching them. It's just like that's not what I'm going for. Like I like to watch a movie when I sit down to watch something. I like to watch 90 minutes to 2 hours. I'll watch a 3 or 4 hour fucking movie. I don't care. As long as it's good and entertaining, the longer, the better. In some cases, we have those extra long extended Lord of the Rings cuts, and they can be a little bit of a, I don't even know, just fucking adventure, but you can get lost in those. They're like too much going on sometimes. I get why they made theatrical cuts. Besides the point, my mind thinks in features. Short films are great, but I personally always thought, I'll make the movie, and that's eventually what I did with Peninsula Nights. But anyways, I digress. Back to the point. It's just crazy how much work has been done in this short period of time, and I feel really good about having that creative energy just put out there in that way. And so it's been cool. I feel like I'm circling in on the next script that I'm actually going to do. I have a feeling it's going to be this one kind of horror thriller movie. I kind of talked about it last week. This week I did a lot of refining on that, really like fine-tuned it, went in there like a fucking surgeon. And, even that being said, there's always going to be work to be done. If you are a writer yourself, never be discouraged about your, earlier drafts. There's that Hemingway quote, every first draft is shit or whatever, of anything. So even the best, they think, hey, maybe my shit's not so great. And sometimes it's just how it goes. You got to fucking kind of just pump it out and see what you get on the other end. The blank page is fucking intimidating for sure, but my biggest problem with that is like just starting. You think like, oh, can I do it again? Like it's going to be tough. And it's like, yeah, you can. Once you start fucking typing, like it always sounds like it's going to be tough, but once you start typing, you get back in the vibe, and it's almost like it's like addicting. Like you want to get back to the keyboard and keep writing and keep typing, and you want to see where the story goes yourself, which is, I think it's what's so entertaining about writing. And like it's so much like there's a lot of escapism in it itself, is you can get lost in that world of like just the story. You're building a world, you're in the character's head. Time fucking flies when I'm writing behind this keyboard. I swear to God, like I'll just sit here and it'll just be 3-4 hours later, and I'm like, I can't believe it's already been 3 or 4 hours later. I feel like I don't have enough time in the day when I am writing. So that's really cool. But yeah, I think if you are like a writer out there, it's funny. I think like subconsciously I'm talking about all this writer like encouragement shit because I just watched that Robert Rodriguez with Joe Rogan. And he talks a lot about like just getting started and like how he made mariachi and how he came into his own, right? You know, when he was starting out. And if you guys don't know the story behind Robert Rodriguez, he made Mariachi for like $7,000 back in the 90s on his own, one-man crew. Went out, shot it, I think on 16 millimeter film, very budget, ended up selling it and then making kind of like the American English version again for, I think, Miramax. But anyways, it launched his career. This guy did Spy Kids, Alita, the motherfucker, Sin City, everything. You know, the guy's huge. If you don't know Robert Rodriguez, I mean, fucking go on IMDb and look him up. You've seen something he's done. But anyways, when I was younger, I was encouraged by guys like Kevin Smith, Robert Rodriguez, Quentin Tarantino, Scorsese, the list goes on. Anybody who's doing it on their own merit and like just being like, I don't give a fuck if the business doesn't want me. I want to be in it. I'm going to get in there one way or another. I like that, you know, that perseverance and just desire to break through was always very inspiring to me. So anyways, back to Robert Rodriguez, on Joe Rogan, he talked a lot about, how he had his own philosophy on getting himself to where he wanted to go and getting others motivated. And I guess he does a lot of like public speaking, which makes sense. You know, the guy's, you know, he's obviously got something special about him that people, it resonates with people, and he's able to get people inspired, like a Tony Robbins of sort. And he talked about how his method was this note card method. He'd go buy a stack of index cards and he'd write down every scene and this is what happens next. And, you know, I've heard people like John Milius kind of talk about something like that. Like they just write it like one at a time, you know, kind of like the cocktail fucking napkin method. And I think that works for some people. And regardless of what method you use, what I heard Robert Rodriguez say is like, he does this thing where he like holds up the stack at the end of his speech and says like, this like stack of index cards changed my life. It made me $1 million. Who wants to change their life? And he throws it into the crowd. It's like fucking Jordan Belfort shit. It's pretty badass. I honestly like really loved what he said, but it's funny, like even without hearing this on my own at some point, I had that moment he's talking about where it was like, oh, once I'm done with this stack of index cards, I'll have my movie, or once I finish this script, or once I do this. And it's like, you have to go through that to get to like, oh, here's my product that I'm going to go out. Not even product. Here's my art that I'm going to go out and make. Here's the script. Here's whatever. I'm done with that. Getting started and getting motivated is very hard. I wrote a lot of scripts to get to Peninsula Nights. Peninsula Nights wasn't my first choice for my first movie. I'm not saying I don't love it. It's exactly what it needed to be for a first movie. I actually think it's the perfect first movie for me and the people involved, Stevie, Christine, everyone. That being said, and also it was the right movie to make. I could make it. I went out and I made it just like Robert Rodriguez when he made Mariachi. I went out and I made this thing on a nickel and dime budget. I made it as good as I could. It's competitive in terms of quality, in terms of acting, in terms of craftsmanship. It's got all the elements that would make it, you know, as good as any indie getting made, right? But that being said, I think a lot of it comes to like, when do you start? When do you decide I want to do this? Robert Rodriguez was pretty young and he's like, fuck it. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to grab fucking life by the horns. I'm going to make this movie. And one thing he said is that before he made it, he was just like, I just didn't know if I could. I knew I could try and make one. I knew I could make something better than the shit he was seeing. He said he was watching a lot of like Mexican like movies that were like, just, they were good. But he's like, if they could get this thing fucking sold, I know I could make something and get it sold. That was the very same mentality I already had. And like, I think for him, maybe it was the time, it was different, but like in the modern day, you know, there's just so much shit getting made. There's so many people doing it. It took a little like different approach, in my opinion, to go out there and do it. And in the world of misinformation, you know, you hear a lot of people say like, well, it has to be done this way. It has to be done that way. And I got to the point, like, without hearing this Robert Rodriguez index card fucking method or any of this motivational speaking, I get, you know, information from everywhere, inspiration from everywhere. But I had that same breakthrough that Robert Rodriguez had, and same with Stevie and Christine. We all had it when we went out and made this movie. First night of shooting, shot it, came home. It was bad. We were like, fuck, I don't know. I guess we'll just reshoot it and see how it goes. And if we can't get it, then maybe you just won't make this thing. It sucks to even say out loud, but it was like, I was kind of like my mentality. I was like, okay, we're out here. Like, this didn't come out the way I thought. Maybe this is going to be tougher than I thought. Maybe it's going to be a lot fucking harder. Maybe it's just not possible. Well, we kept going and we got the fucking first scene done and it came out like pretty magical. And I'm like, okay, I can start seeing the movie now. It's happening. You know, by the end of this movie, I remember shooting like one of the last scenes. We were on Alvarado in Monterey and it was like fucking clockwork. We went out there, filmed it, maybe 1 to 3 takes. And that was that, you know? And then we went and shot, I think like the last scene right after that. And, you know, Robert Rodriguez in his thing talked about how like, that's the same mentality he had. He went and shot this movie, was kind of like, not even like no confidence, but like kind of like, fuck, like, you know what? Like, let's just see what happens. Maybe it'll be good. And he said by the end of it, he's thinking about the fucking 100th movie. And it's like, that's exactly right. That's the really the head change that comes. It's like, you get to a point where you're like, I think I can do this. Let me go try. I think it's going to be possible to make it good. And then it starts coming out good. And then you start seeing the result and you start thinking like, well, fuck, like, okay, I've almost got the first one done. Oh, now the first one's done. Well, what's the second one going to be like? What's the third one going to be like? So on and so forth. And I don't know. I think that's really like the breakthrough that you need to have. You need to fucking find that, how do I say this? You need to find that motivation, or it's like a breakthrough. It's hard to describe, but once you figure it out, it's a head change. Once you get that head change and you feel like you can do it and you're not just on the outside anymore looking in, you feel like you're one of them. That's it. That's the money. And yeah. So anyways, without hearing that kind of method or, you know, system that he uses, I had that head change, and it really like, it spoke to me even just hearing it again. And it just made me realize that like, I think like most people are just getting in their own way. And if you're a filmmaker and you want to like make it, you need to just start fucking writing. You need to just start filming. You need to just go out there and do it. You don't need permission. You don't need very much money these days. Just go make your movie, you know? And that's really where I'm at as well. I figured out my own way to go out and make films the way I want to make them and how I want to make them and with the people I want to make them with. And I think that's the most important thing too. Find your tribe, find your method. It doesn't have to be Robert Rodriguez's. It doesn't have to be mine. It has to be yours. And when you find a system that works, do it. This is a little bit of an aside, but I was watching pizza videos with my dad yesterday. Like people making them on YouTube. They discovered Dave Portnoy, my parents, and like now they think he's fucking awesome, and maybe they're a little late to the party, but you know what? It's good to see even these vintage fucking stool videos where he's just going out there and killing it, but with the reviews. But anyways, we were watching one, and the guy had like his kitchen, like it was like fucking McDonald's. Like this guy could patent his system, the way he had like shit cut out in his kitchen. It was incredible. But at some point this guy said like, fuck it, I want to run a one-man pizza operation. We watched a few of these one-man pizza operations, but this guy wanted to do it on his own and make sure that if no one was there to help him, he could do it and deliver. And he was exactly right. Like his system he made it so easy for him to do what he wanted to do. And it was pretty cool. And honestly, it shows you that anyone who's trying to do anything, whether it's making pizza, making movies, anything, you're growing vegetables in your backyard, you can figure out a system that works for you. That's a winning system that gets you the best results possible. And that is all that matters. There is no right answer. It's whatever you think is right. And in relationship to filmmaking, screenwriting, arts in particular, since that's what really the focus of fucking this podcast is, you find out what works for you. There's really no right answer. So trust your instincts, trust your gut, and follow your feelings. You know, it's really, I think it's that simple. Follow your heart. It sounds cheesy, but it's the fucking truth. And that's what you need to do. So anyways, moving on from that, don't ask for permission. Go out and do what you want to do. I want to talk a little bit about horror movies because I've been really like, you know, deep diving into horror. I've always loved it. I've always watched it. But, you know, sometimes when you watch something, it's like listening to a genre of music. If you're going to write rap music, you're probably not going to listen to country all the time, vice versa. You want to get inspired and you want to try and find like, you know, the sound or the groove. And that's like same thing with like horror. Like the more you watch it, the more you see tropes or archetypes or moments, things that you might be like, it's inspirational. I could see that, you know, weaved into a narrative I do, or like some ideas that could be relative to what you're going to be making. So I revisited some films that I love. I watched the Hostel movies, 1 and 2 at least. I kind of mentioned that, I think, on the last pod, but I hadn't rented Hostel 2, and then I just decided to fucking buy it and watch it again. And you know what? It was just as good as number 1, if not even better than the first. And I kind of said this last week, but Eli Roth was smart. He did the first movie through, there's a lot of vagueness and like ambiguity on what's really going on. And it's also told through the male gaze. You know, these men go to a town to sleep with women. They end up getting drawn into this weird, torturous, maybe like cult, underground black market business, and they don't really know why. And then they try to escape. So, you know, it's interesting and it's riveting and it's fucking entertaining while being also frightening. And then Hostel 2 is told through the female gaze, and it's really cool. You get to see like what that experience would be like for a woman who's being, you know, kind of like, it's it's not quite sex trafficking. It kind of like borders the line between that and like, you know, obviously there's like a murderous angle, but yeah, told through the female gaze, and it's really cool. I think it was good to show that through both eyes, and yeah, it's just really well done, really well done. Then I revisited, I watched Jeepers Creepers with Steve. It was good, a little cheesy, but you know what? I love Jeepers Creepers. Those movies are fun, and I can't hate on them. For what it's worth, Justin Long in the first one and the sister, I can't remember her name, but the dynamic between him and his sister was really good. Really, really rooted in reality, very authentic. The movie is a little, it's dated. I think it came out in 2000, 2001. So like, give it, for what it's worth, it's a good movie, but you can feel there's a little cheese, you know, on there, and it was fun. I liked it. You know, it was good to revisit. I saw Jeepers Creepers 2 as well. It was good too. This is like, I don't know. It's, I don't even know what to say. These movies were so popular when I was young. I'd watch them all the fucking time. So I like them, but they're not like the pedigree horror, in my opinion. They become classics though. Jeepers Creepers, whatever his name is, a fucking creeper. He's a creep. And if I was out on a road late at night, my car broke down, and I started thinking about the creeper, I'd be freaked out, which I think is kind of like the whole point. You know, it kind of lives rent free in your head. Like with horror movie characters like that, it's like Jason. Like I'm not really afraid of fucking Jason Voorhees, but if he walked out of the woods while I was fixing my tire, I'd be terrified. So anyways, I digress. I ended up rewatching X, Pearl, and MaXXXine though this week. Specifically MaXXXine. That was the one that stood out to me. I love Pearl. I've talked highly of it in the past. X is great. I think it's just perfect for what it is. But MaXXXine came out a little under a year ago, and you know what? I think it got kind of critically panned, which was really unfair. You know, Ty West is a master. All three of these films came together perfect thematically, cinematically. The narrative was nice. It didn't try too hard to be too connected, but everything did connect really well. And I don't know, it's his masterpiece trilogy for sure. I mean, they could all be one movie stitched together and it would be entertaining for every fucking beat. But MaXXXine was really good. It kind of had this message about, this time watching it, because when I initially watched it, I was watching it with like the others in mind and not watching it as its own thing. I'm like, yeah, you get a little clouded judgment on it. And I never thought it was bad. I just was like, okay, it was good. MaXXXine was cool. Like the 80s vibe. Some of the cameos felt a little like rushed in my opinion, but this time when I watched it, which I say this about every movie, it's not even like I dislike MaXXXine, but the more I watch a movie, the more I grow to like it. And with MaXXXine this time, I really got the like message loud and clear. It wasn't just about it, like there's so much of it. Maybe it's because I've also like put the movie out like Peninsula Nights, but so much of it was about why people chase the Hollywood dream, the personal reasons, the personal focus on trying to get something out of Hollywood. And for a lot of people, Hollywood dream is the American dream. And for me, like my American dream is the Hollywood dream. So, it's not that crazy. A lot of people have this dream. A lot of people want it. I don't know what it is, but there's certain energy that Hollywood has. And I kind of talked about it last week. Hollywood's way more than a fucking town. Hollywood's an idea. It's the Hollywood dream, maybe to some extent that's what it's always been selling, is just the dream. But the movie was really rooted in MaXXXine's drive to not just like break free from like, sure, she's doing porn and like she wants to get to like something more classy and a higher level, but like, fuck, it's not even about that. It's like a spiritual fulfillment that she feels inclined to get. She deserves this, or she says always like, I want to live a life I deserve to live, or whatever the fucking quote is. I'll pull it up. But she kind of repeats that mantra throughout all the films, from X, Pearl, etc. on. And she keeps saying, I'm a fucking star. And it's like, I think a lot of people that want to be in the business, I don't care if you're in the fucking writer's room or if you're a PA on set, like everyone has this mentality that like, I want to do something great. Maybe they want to be the star. The star in your own life could be anything. If you work at a fucking bank, maybe the star is being the bank manager. Everybody wants that recognition, that sense of personal fulfillment, that spiritual fulfillment in life. And I think that is really what it got down to in MaXXXine. I also like that Ty West delivered this information pretty unbiasedly. It's not political. It's like apolitical. If anything, it's not trying to go in one direction or the other. There's some religious undertones, but it's all focused at like the spirituality angle that he's going for, the message he's trying to send, which is that this Hollywood dream is about like, it's about spiritual fulfillment. Maybe it's the recognition, maybe it's the fame, maybe it's the fortune, the success, just knowing that people know who you are. I really don't know what it is, but I really thought that like the social commentary he plays within the horror narrative, 10 out of 10. Like, it made way more sense to me than ever. I really felt connected to it. And I think it kind of speaks for like more than just Hollywood, like in the modern day, like, you know, between social media and this and that. You know, what's funny is if MaXXXine was just a porn star at this point in time, she'd probably be just as famous just for being that, with, you know, social media and shit. The movie takes place in the 80s, so obviously it's more of that time. But, and if you haven't seen it, go and watch these movies, buy them if you have to. I think they're all on HBO Max or Max, whatever they're calling it now. They changed the name too much. But yeah, Max. And you can watch MaXXXine and enjoy it and appreciate the fucking, all the movies. Watch them in order too. I mean, build it up to MaXXXine, and the payoff's excellent. It's incredible. And even if you want to watch MaXXXine alone, it's good. They do a callback to X in it, so you might need that for context. But I think even if you saw it, you could understand that, the subplot and what they're getting at. But anyways, I thought that was really, really important. And it just, it really spoke to me this time in a way that like it had not in the past viewings. Like, I guess when I watched it, I initially watched it just really to get like the story and like the narrative. And that's the thing with movies too. If you like a movie, go back and watch it a bunch, watch it as many times as you fucking want. Like, there's no rule about that. I know. I mean, and it's not crazy. I know some people are like, oh, I've watched that movie a million times. Well, you know, I think it's important to watch a movie more than once, unless you just flat out fucking hate it. But like, you know, give movies a chance to kind of grow on you and like spend some time with them. It's almost like listening to a song. Like, a good song you don't listen to once and be like, wow, that was great, I'm never listening to it again. You go back and you fucking burn it out. You kind of get all the dopamine you can out of it. And then you're like, okay, maybe I'll put this one on the shelf for a bit. But with a movie, let it grow on you, get to know it, you know, hang out with it for a bit. And I think I heard Tarantino say, he's like, movies are like music. He's like, I throw them on. It's like a fireplace, you know, kind of in the background. Like, I'll look up. It's like an ambiance to some extent. And I almost think his movies are like that. Because I remember, like, I think when Once Upon a Time in Hollywood came out, it might have been the summer of 2019 or 2020, but I think it was 2020. I had it on like constantly. And I remember I associate that movie heavily with the fires that actually happened in California during the river fire. I mean, I was sitting on my fucking balcony watching the hills burn in the backyard, you know, not too far from me, maybe not even a mile up the hill. And I stayed until the fucking fire department knocked on the door and said, you got to leave or sign a waiver. But yeah, I always think of, you know, I had Once Upon a Time on because it was hot, middle of the summer, fucking 80 degrees inside with the fans on, and you know, just Tarantino brewing in the background. So it was a vibe for sure. And I totally agree with them. You know, some movies, it's more than just like, obviously you want to watch a movie when you're watching it, but even if it's on in the background, it's kind of just like I always say this too, Armageddon, hot summer day around 5-6 o'clock. You just got back from the fucking river or the lake or the beach, kind of sleepy, maybe half drunk, laying on the sofa. That's the type of movie you just like let it ride. It's action, it's easy. Yeah, it's fucking crazy shit's gonna happen, but I don't know. Some movies are meant for certain times and days. It's like fucking throwing on Home Alone during Christmas. You know, you're gonna love that vibe it gives out. So anyways, I digress. Moving on. Little Hollywood talk. I saw that Revenge of the Sith was back in theaters this weekend, and it made a fuck ton of cash. I guess it made like 42 million global box office haul one weekend. I actually think that this might be the angle Hollywood should push for movie theaters, because it seems like theaters are kind of like, I know Minecraft's gonna make like $1 billion. Great. Minecraft's dope. It's got Jack Black, it's got Jason Momoa. It's pretty much a fireproof film as long as they didn't fuck it up with like the actual quality of the movie. It seems like people like it. Fans of that shit like it. I personally am not a Minecraft person, but I love Jack Black and Jason, and you know what? I'm glad it's a hit for Hollywood, because Hollywood needs hits. And even with the fucking Revenge of the Sith coming back into theaters and making 42 million a weekend, it makes me kind of wonder, like, is it the movies we're putting out now that aren't good? Or is it, and I'm not even saying the movies aren't good, but they're not drawing people to the theaters. Maybe theaters should be where we showcase our best films. Like, I would be okay if they wanted to just play the best movies in theaters. I'll go and pay to go see something I love. I might go pay more to go see that than something I don't know. Like, you know, the gamble of like, hey, I'll pay $20 to go and see a maybe. Or I'll pay $20 to go out and see like my favorite movie on a fucking 80-foot screen. I'm okay with that, personally. I'm like having the primo sound, the fucking great seats, everything being perfect. We could make a deal there. And I think maybe Hollywood should think about constantly running classics, you know, or hey, maybe slate it out. Like, you know, Alamo Drafthouse does that. They're like, hey, we're going to play Spider-Man maybe on 35 millimeter film. And it's like, well, fuck, if you're going to do that, yeah, I'll pay my 25. Like, come on, I'll come on down tonight. Maybe that's something that all theater chains and studios and everything should just be like, hey, like this summer we're running the Star Wars trilogy. You can make it limited. It doesn't have to be perpetually in there all the time, but like maybe during Halloween, we just play the best fucking Halloween or horror films, you know? I don't know. I think they're onto something. I mean, if Revenge of the Sith is having one of the biggest opening weekends it's ever fucking had by going into theaters again, it came out 2006 or 05. We're talking 20 years later and it's having a huge weekend. It's not only grown a fan base around it. There's new viewers that didn't get a chance to see it, or maybe they saw it as a kid in theaters. They want to go back and have the nostalgia factor. Let the people have it. Let them have what they fucking want. And I think they want to see their favorite movies on the biggest fucking screen possible. So yeah. All right. Enough ranting about that shit. Not a lot happened in Hollywood this week. It's kind of the same, flavor. We got people leaving. The business wants to go elsewhere all over, and we'll see where the cards lie. I think it's never over for LA. I think Hollywood has these ups and downs, and it's a resilient town. And I think it also is kind of a self-correcting machine. When it starts to see that its bottom line is getting affected or like the business is running away from them, they try to rope it in like a fucking cowboy trying to rope in cattle. They do not want it to get away from them, and they're smart people. And, I know on here sometimes I kind of beat them up, but, I think there's going to be change of hands. There's going to be somebody that gets in there and says like, hey, this is what we need to do. And there are also people making good shit. I mentioned this, but like HBO and some of the other, Netflix. I even saw Ted Sarandon say like, hey, like I am saving Hollywood. And you know what? Maybe he's fucking, I get it. Some people they just want to bash Netflix all the time, but like, I don't know. Netflix pumps out a lot of shit. They employ a lot of people. They employ a lot of writers, directors, actors, producers, everybody. They're holding Hollywood up. They're feeding a lot of people. They're making sure a lot of people go home with a fucking paycheck at the end of the day. And they also make a lot of stuff. Maybe you don't agree with everything they make. Maybe not everything's a hit. Maybe not everything's up to the bar of quality that we want or some people want, but a lot of the stuff is, and it's very good. And don't sleep on Netflix. They got Stranger Things coming out, Squid Games 3. We got Wednesday 2. We got a lot of shit coming out. And obviously I don't think anyone's sleeping on Netflix, but yeah, I think they're going to keep LA productions going. And I know they're building the new Mexico facility and this and that, but they're always going to, use those backlots in Burbank, and they're going to probably be the ones renting it out. So, cheers to fucking Netflix. I watched the new episode of The Studio this week. That was the one show I did get around to seeing. I know the Gemstones finale came out last night. I didn't get a chance to see it because I was just busy writing and doing other shit, but I will watch that and I will talk about that this week. Don't spoil it for me. No DMs. But that being said, The Studio was a really good episode. It focused on Seth Rogen's character, Matt Remick, dating a doctor. And it kind of just shows for other, filmmakers and stuff out there, that line that you kind of have to walk between being the film person and then also like knowing that other people maybe don't think it's all that. And I guess what I mean is that like, it's hard. And it's obviously, I think he wrote this from a place of like, if you were really the studio head of Continental Studios in the show, I think most people are going to come with quite a bit of respect and be like, hey, this is a pretty cool fucking job. You're doing great. In his case, the doctor he's dating kind of like they're watching movies and she's like, oh, I haven't seen any of the movies your studio's made. And these are fucking like $1 billion movies. And he's like, oh, okay. And then he starts realizing that like people outside of his career don't really give a fuck about his career, or they don't respect it the same. And he ends up going out on a date with her, and like even his friends at work joke about him dating the doctor, like, oh, that's never going to work because it's not the same line of work. And when he goes to this party, he realizes the doctors really don't give a fuck about entertainment and this and that. And his job seems stupid to them because, they're out there saving lives. They think like his job is immature and juvenile. And I think anytime you're getting into arts or something of this nature, you're going to be faced with that. And it's an unfortunate truth. I've been subjected to it myself. People may not take you as serious as you want them to, or they might think like, okay, kid. And especially before I made the fucking movie, if I had $1 for every time somebody said like, that's just never going to work or this or that, it's like, yeah, well, it did. And it's not even like who's going to have the last laugh situation. It's kind of like, you got to do what you want to do, regardless of what anyone else thinks. And if you got to prove yourself, but like do it on your own terms, and don't let somebody else's fucking opinion of somebody who's not in your line of work or trying to do what you're doing, or somebody who doesn't have the success you want to have in life, try and tell you what to do. Because there's going to be a lot of fucking people that want to tell you how to do something, or this is how I got it, blah, 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 blah. look at them and think about where they're at in their life, their age, what they have, what they got, their journey, whatever they, fucking deduce from that. But bet on yourself, and don't let somebody else's opinions get in your head about where you should be going or what you should be doing in life, because that's very unfair to you. And also, I kind of like the center of that episode was like, people are going to disrespect you or take for granted what you do or think maybe it's not so great. And that's okay. But, persevere and say fuck them and just keep going. Anyways, if you haven't seen the studio, go watch it. It's just been nothing but consistently good episodes. And Seth Rogen, I think he's like kind of speaking not just to his experience, but to like, filmmakers and other Hollywood dreamers. The show's really for them and for us and the people that are in the business or want to be in the business. And sure, the viewer's going to enjoy it too. There's still that inside baseball, vicarious nature. Also, I have to say, they finally made like the Entourage joke in this episode. I've heard Seth Rogen and Doug Ellen, the creator of Entourage, have had beef in the past. Some bullshit about whatever. I'll find the article and post it. But man, I'm glad Seth Rogen handled it pretty classy. He didn't take a stab at Entourage. He just kind of says in the episode, like, Entourage was a show beloved by millions. It's almost like a soft apology or kind of like a just like truce, which I think is appropriate and good. And I honestly think Doug Ellen and Seth Rogen would probably fucking work excellent together. And yeah, anyways, I digress. All right. Well, I think I've said enough. This has been another episode of Unscripted. I'm Devin Thomas. I'll see you guys next week.